First, a message from our sponsor. I think it's fair to refer to Spitfire as our sponsor. Without them, we wouldn't have this channel or piano book or the amazing prizes that I'm about to give out. I also just like to let you know when things are more affordable. Spitfire's expensive, and many of you may be thinking of kind of restocking your arsenals for what I imagine is going to be an amazing 2021. The deals end today, so jump on that whilst you can. Right, I think we should start today's film with one of these. Well, what an absolutely splendid way and appropriate to see out 2020. And why do I think 2021 is going to be exciting and a time for new opportunity? Well, I think what we do, create content, and I hate that word. It's like describing literature as stuff that goes in books. What we do, create content that is distributed and digested digitally, is the new oil. Disney has just announced they're making 10 new Marvel movies, 10 new Star Wars. They're even giving Hayden his job back. What we do, it's the new oil. And I believe 2021 is going to be an incredible year for us all. So much so, I'm going to plant my flag here in the ground. Summer solstice, Monday, 21st of June. I'd like to meet you here for a celebration. I'm hoping we're going to be able to meet in person, if not virtually. But this, for me, is what I'm pinning my hopes on. Things resembling some kind of new normal in the next 6 months' time. And I want to celebrate that with you. Right, today, you may be just about to kind of tie a few on, or you may be recovering on New Year's Day from an Orwellian hangover. I thought I'd go to the channel and I'd just remind myself of the absolute shit show that 2020 was, but also all of the great highlights that I shared with you, whilst also, as I mentioned before, giving out some prizes. But first things first, what did I get for Christmas? Well, because I've got a really cool wife, she got me one of these. Oh, Electro Harmonics micro synthesizer, and it's a vintage one too. Look at all of that. Really exciting. My wife actually has been recording an album this year, and it is awesome. It's so exciting to have two people in the family making music. And what's been incredible about Dot's album is she's done it with women. So female engineers, musicians, arrangers. It's amazing. You can see within a generation, you can just totally obliterate the established norms about our working environment and being kind of male dominated. My daughter, my youngest daughter, Bonnie, she's been spending time in the studio, Castle Sound, and here with Dot, and she spent more time in recording studios where the majority of the people working in them are female than the other way around. And she's just not aware of the kind of paradigm that we've lived through. And I think it's part of the kind of outlook for Spitfire in 2021 is to really address that paradigm. Something we've been striving to do this year, but it's a subject I'll probably return to. So that pedal is something I'm going to be adding to my filth box, which I'll talk you through in a minute. Now, I mentioned prizes for you. One of the great kind of proud things that I'm involved with is Piano Book, and I wanted to pay back the immense commitment so many of you made to this incredible venture. And I thought, last year I did an honours list. I thought this year we could kind of do an Oscars themed list, because basically this year's Oscars are going to be rubbish.
This year, we've created an Oscar-style roll call of honour. 10 categories, 10 winners, each of which receiving a free copy of Spitfire Audio's all-new Abbey Road 1. The first winner, well, you've already heard it. Accompanying the Sunrise, Steepy by Sam DeFriend, just knocked our socks off. And thank you to everyone who's committing demos to Piano Book. One of the things it's really difficult about having a YouTube channel is being overexcitable, is I tend to pre-announce things that are going to happen, and then when they get delayed or they don't happen, it's a bit embarrassing. And one of them was this library company that I was hoping to set up using the demos from Piano Book, naturally, at your permission. Now, the reason that's stalled is not through any contractual difficulties or lack of desire. It's simply 2020 has been a very difficult year to be helping running the business that is Spitfire, keeping this channel going, but also working as a composer. And I just feared for our bandwidth, and that's something I'm looking into. So do watch this space where demos are concerned. I'm hoping that we can rekindle this real desire I have to make Piano Book a bit of an earner for you guys. So thanks again for all of your commitments to the demos. We've got 2 amazing playlist down below, one for the highlights of December and 2 for our favourite demos of the year. So congratulations to the winner and congratulations to you all for your fantastic contributions. Right. What happened next in 2020? It's kind of weird going back where you can see that there's no kind of portent about what's going to happen. And we started the year in Norway, 200 miles inside the Arctic Circle, doing what I hope to be the beginning of gallivanting around the globe again with my pals at Spitfire. What was extraordinary about this trip is that we needed to gather enough footage to make a trailer. The problem was I only had 2 days available to the team to do the pieces to camera. And to add to that, we only had 2 hours of usable sunlight a day. It was, I could see why they tax the alcohol in Norway, because you'd settle down at kind of midday and it would be dusk, and then by the time you'd finished your lunch, it would feel like the middle of the night and you'd just want to settle into boozing the day away. So that was an extraordinary experience, and working with the Spitfire team, as always, is an incredible honour. But this year, more so than any year, they have been such stalwarts. You know, to have got out what we've got out under those conditions is just insane. And I would say my darkest hour was probably at the beginning of the year in March, was just fearing for those 80 livelihoods that Paul, myself and everyone is responsible for. And I'm so relieved to say that we've not laid a soul off, no one's been put on furlough, and we've managed to stay working with the freelancers as well. In fact, we've hired, I think, 10 people. So we are so fortunate, where other areas of the music industry have been absolutely decimated. So what happened after Norway? Well, I think one of the look, we made a tape orchestra. Well, watch this space. One of the things that I'm incredibly proud of the team doing is this series of labs-free instruments, and the tape orchestra might be something that you might want to get your hands on, so keep an eye on that. We've now got, I mean, I think it's nearly 1 million labs users, and we're close to nearly 10 million downloads. So this desire to inspire a generation of composers is kind of writ large in labs, and there's just something, I just find it so kind of humbling, but also amusing that the word comes from. There was this this track maker that I used to work with. I'm not going to mention his name. When I in the good old drum and bass days, and he'd always like have the gnarliest samples and would occasionally let on that I was something from the Rolling Stones. You're like, mate, you really can't sample the Rolling Stones. So thereafter, whenever we say, where's that sound from? Where's that loop from? We just go, yeah, somewhere in the lab. And so that became like kind of an in-joke with myself and my brother of like, where's that snare drum from? You just go, from the lab, something I cooked up in the lab. And that's where labs came from. The idea was to make samples that didn't sound like commercial samples, that just are the kind of your private lab, your private kind of cache of samples. And Joe and I, my brother and I, have been kind of sharing samples that we've been making of Snapple bottles and the Chirango and all of that kind of stuff between ourselves. And it was just an extension of that, of like, well, why can't we just share our labs instruments with everyone? And by making them free, I think that it makes it free for us. If we can be free with our kind of expression. We're not making commercial samples. We're just making awesome sound. So that's something I'm really proud of. A sound from Simon Poole features in an Ivor Novello-winning computer game score. And then I travelled to America, created is this the greatest portable writing rig ever? Well, it's not. It was a good mixing rig, but I said that the Apple AirPods were just awesome headphones. They are, but they're totally useless for writing with. I was actually doing some mixing at that point for the TV series Inside Number 9, which has been furloughed or put on hiatus this year. I think they've gone back into production. I've seen the first 2 episodes, which were amazing. I'm just crossing my fingers that they're going to be able to complete that production, because London's looking a bit gnarly at the moment. I had an amazing meeting with Eric Whittaker, and which brings me on to an unexpected side effect of 2020, and that is babies, or the new coronials, as James Bellamy, a pal I've been working with Spitfire for nearly as long as Paul Thompson, and I think it's safe to say that Eric's just had a kid, and congratulations to him, but also the 5 babies that are either just plopping out at Spitfire or are about to plop out. Needless to say, most of these babies are first-time babies. I don't think many parents who've been kind of in isolation, homeschooling their kids, have turned to their partner and gone, should we get more of these? So Eric Whittaker, well done, and it's a real honour, as always, to refer to you as a friend. And one of the projects that I've got in store next year, hopefully, will be working with Eric on something incredibly exciting. You may not be able to pronounce it, but it's a real favourite with the most positive reviews. Fabian Siethoff's Modular Mondays. One of the things that I've been asked this year is how many albums get coming on. And the good news is I've written it. It's only 12 notes, but they're 12 good notes. And it's something that I'll bring up a little bit later, if I may. I visited John Obstad, his amazing shed, and he's such a talented composer, well worth keeping an eye out for. This fills me with sadness. The London Walk in 2020, again, just there was no mention throughout that journey of what was on its way. This is so close to the kind of the lockdown starting. I'm not going to dwell on the lockdown too much, but I really miss those walks, and that's something that will be one of the first things I bring back the minute we're able. And as I said, I'm crossing my fingers and hoping for summer solstice this year. Then I announced, that's 10 months ago, it seems like a combination of yesterday but also a different age ago, I announced music by 300 strangers. It wasn't called that then because I didn't know how many of you were going to contribute. And it was so kind of, I don't know, portentous of so many of the projects that people did throughout lockdown. But it wasn't with that in mind at all. It just really kind of captured the moment that we're all held captive, but we could all come together and write a piece of music together, which was absolutely extraordinary. And it was great fun making that with you and watching as the kind of momentum gained behind it. And I thank you again so much for your contributions to that. It really was a very magical moment for me. And I did mention, again, there's one of these kind of errors of of having a YouTube channel and announcing something, that it would form the basis for my album. But when speaking to my agent, she felt the complications of having potentially 300 authors was somewhat insurmountable. So I'll get back to the album idea in a minute. It might be another thing that I may ask of you, which will be hopefully very exciting. Whimsical can be beautiful, a stunningly eccentric GUI from Peter Esch. I also, I think that when we fell into the depths of the lockdown, I said I wasn't going to dwell on it. I'm so totally going to dwell on it. But I think that one of the things that got me out of my funk was, I think in order to feel strong, you've got to do things that are strong. By feeling that you're weak or vulnerable, it makes you more vulnerable and weak. It's a bit of a feedback loop. And one of the things that I immediately felt when I was kind of curled up in a ball, I remember that morning quite, I'm in a real nasty bout of some kind of mentalness, which I didn't enjoy at all. It was like a low-level, elongated panic attack. It was awful. I immediately felt that there are actually individuals who were in way worse positions than myself, individuals that I knew, namely my stepmother, who just lost her husband, my dad, alongside my mum, who I went down to London and fetched and moved her up to Edinburgh so that we could be closer to her. She's 83 now, and just wanted to keep a good eye on her, and she's just literally around the corner, which is great. And by reaching out to people and checking in on them, that enabled me to feel just that little bit stronger. And I think that that's something that I will take into 2021 as a lesson learned, that actually when you feel low, a way of lifting yourself up is to reach out to people who are maybe in greater need than you. A good lesson learned this year. So one of the things I decided to do was this terribly named Nerding for the Weekend series, which was my attempts at a podcast. And that, I think, was an extraordinary byproduct of the lockdown. Was by being in isolation, we kind of strangely came together. And I feel that if there's anything that will probably never return to our screens is stars travelling the world promoting movies and records. I think that now they can see you can do it via Zoom. They'll probably set up their kind of Zoom studios in their houses and do their junkets that way. But that's been such a great honour to not only talk with three fantastic contributors to Piano Book, which I think are really worthy of mentioning: Dan Keane, John Meyer. Congratulations for the first Piano Book instrument that's become a Labs. Maybe more of those in 2021. And David Hilowitz, who I'd like to come back to. Johannes Menzel has shown us that even with a suboptimal selection of mics in this particular location, by getting and capturing the spirit of the instrument, you can create a truly marvellous recording. And it was a great pleasure to chat with good old friends, Anna Phoebe and Charlie Klauser, who's been working on something which I'm very excited about. Gary Barlow, who's become an unexpected friend over the years through my efforts with Spitfire, and is possibly one of the, not only one of the most talented people in the music industry in the UK today, but also just one of the nicest human beings I've ever met. Always a delight. Oh, God, just to see Rupert Gregson-Williams. If I was to say there are two people who are responsible for my career, I would say my agent Maggie Rodford and Rupert Gregson-Williams, who is just one of these people who supports young composers and really helped me in my early years by hooking me up with library music. I mean, I still live off the income I have through his company and my earnings with KPM Music, but also introducing me to Harry Gregson-Williams, and to Hans Zimmer. So I mean, he is really fundamentally behind the story of Spitfire and my career. So it was a real honour to see him after so many years, and then to hopefully make new friends. Segun Akinola was a delightful contributor to the channel, and someone I'm really looking forward to having a pint with. Another real supporter of this channel, Rick Beato. Again, thanks for giving me your time early in the year, Rick, and amazing to see how your channel is just exploding. I think it tells us a lot about, you know, the future of YouTube and this word content that I mentioned earlier, and the desire to have long-form, really kind of deep dives, educational material, I think is really telling, and something that, you know, talking of Dan Keane and his huge success on his YouTube channel, he's very coy about it, and rightfully so, and I'm not going to blow his cover, but he's really achieving amazing things because of his YouTube channel. And if that was one activity I would humbly encourage, it would be, you know, if you're thinking of setting up a channel, the educational content, there's a real hunger out there for it, and I will happily support anyone who wants to give it a go. But you'd be very surprised. I'm sure Dan will tell you all in coming months what he's been up to, but you'll be very surprised at how opportunity has come his way because of his very, I don't know, his very incredibly charismatic but intelligent and very talented, but also very exposed presence on YouTube has been very helpful for him. I know that there's a composer who had a terrible time on YouTube and said it probably isn't something composers should do. Well, I think there's a right way to do it, and there's something about Rick Beato that should be kind of learnt from, is he's broken every rule in the book when it comes to YouTube videos, this idea that you've got to make them short and snappy and broad. Well, he's kind of investigating modes and is sitting in his studio kind of practicing guitar online. It just goes to show where there's a real hunger. Trevor Morris, wonderful to spend some time with you, such an enthusiast about the thing that we do, media composition. Jay McCarthy, we just love the way you processed your synth, and what better way than taking it out of the box and sticking it in an old plastic box. And then that season, and so the kind of first lockdown, ended with Nitin Sawhney, who is another person who I've met through my activities at Spitfire and am very honoured to refer to as a friend. I do hope I can repay that dinner that you got me last year in 2021, Nitin. I'm really looking forward to hopefully doing some work with you as well. And I think that this came around this very dark period in American history, which certainly for anyone conscientious made us really look inwards and think about the paradigm that I mentioned earlier that befalls the music industry and the really poor representation. Something I'm incredibly proud of, slightly earlier in the year, was the release of BBC Discover. This went to the heart of what I've always wanted Spitfire to be this accessible inspiration for a generation of composers. And I felt that that surely was enough to buck the trend, to challenge the paradigm, to make orchestral music available to all, to make it available not only because it was free, but you know, it was small enough to download wherever you are. We have a lot of people who use our labs stuff on the Indian subcontinent, where the difference in wages means that Spitfire is really out of reach of most people, and we get all of these kind of letters of thanks for labs, and it became the kind of fundamental fulcrum really for me to encourage the BBC Spitfire to make BBC Discover free to all, to make it so that it was truly accessible. And I think that as a counterpoint to that, and certainly with the conversation I had with Nitin, I felt that it's not enough, that there is a very poor representation of women and people of colour within our corner of the industry. And it was pointed out to us that our kind of optics, the number of women and people of colour that appeared on our channels, reflected the paradigm. And I was very defensive about that. I was like, well, that's what we're trying to change. Lauren Sunderland, among many others in the Spitfire kind of organisation, but Lauren Sunderland, within a matter of weeks, really worked hard to buck that trend with Composer magazine and the representation, or the poor representation we'd had until that point. We just have to try harder to go where there is greater need of assistance, and that is something that we're really, really hoping to do in Spitfire. Now, I'll return to Winter Voices, but I've made a new extra patch, something that I did erroneously with the original Winter Voices film, was to forget to talk about the voluntary donations for this charity. Just give us 1 minute to explain. 2020 has been a very tough year for the creative industry, and whilst Winter Voices, like all piano instruments, is free, if you enjoy it and are able to provide a small donation, we'd be so thankful. Piano Book is supporting We Make Events, which splits donations across a range of charities supporting the arts during this hard time. And I feel really upset that I didn't include that in the Winter Voices film. So what I've done is I've created a new free patch, and I'm going to offer it out as a kind of honesty bar that if you've donated, or if you care to donate via the link down below the Winter Voices page, then do feel free to download this new extra patch, which I'm really excited about. Daniel Harrison, you blew us away with this debut effort. Absolutely fantastic sounding, but also really reactive piano to play. I wouldn't say I had a kind of burnout at the end of the kind of Nerding for the Weekend series, but I still didn't have a team at that point, and was not only conducting the interviews myself, but was editing them. And because of the mad synchronization challenges of doing stuff via Zoom, editing those things was an absolute bastard. So I needed to take a break, and it was when we all kind of crawled out from our hobbit holes for those very brief pubby summer months that I remember when having my first pint of, you really should make the most of this because it's very likely that we're going to go back into lockdown. And I think I took a month off, or maybe 2 or 3 weeks off. I broke my hiatus with a ridiculous shouty, ranty video regarding the Westworld competition, which I'm incredibly proud of. What the team in Spitfire did was insane. And was my video a good idea? Well, it wasn't. And it exposed me to what it feels like to be in the midst of a, I imagine, fairly mild Twitter storm. But it wasn't nice to have that amount of hatred pour on you. And I think that the one thing I really fear about the world we live in, particularly where social media is concerned, is this idea of dogma. That if your opinion differs from the consensus, that then you are kind of up for being cancelled. And I think the thing that I found most upsetting, considering the kind of efforts that Paul and I and the rest of the Spitfire team make with Spitfire of not really running a horrid capitalistic kind of company, but doing things, I think, as best as we can, and keeping the company private so that we can do that. I think that what was really shocking about the response to my video in the Westworld competition was the immediate kind of pivot of people going, right, Spitfire's cancelled. And that was absolutely heartbreaking. I was really glad that the winner made that fantastic YouTube video, and people could see how well researched his submission was, and how inside the series he'd got himself. So I'm really proud of the job that was done for Westworld. Not least, I wasn't one of the judges. The team, the number of submissions that they watched was pretty incredible. So That was an interesting thing. I probably won't make one of those videos again. But again, you know, it's that thing of, do you possibly push against the kind of tsunami of groupthink? I don't know. I think that's something I'm most troubled about, where the way we're going with social media and stuff. There's like a few subjects I feel really strongly about, but I could just never, ever dream of putting them on my social media because I fear they would differ to that of a very, very vocal minority. So, which is why as you can see, my Twitter and stuff has become less political. Came out of my, you know, season 1, if you will, of this channel into season 2 with. This was when I started working with Robbie, and he's been just an absolute delight. And I'm sure you've all seen a massive improvement in the quality of the videos. Why are synths so difficult to mix? I think I created a rod for my own back with that one. That was a tough one to make, and so was Drumology. And then what I thought was going to be an absolute hit video, the one where I dropped a piano from a 60-foot crane, absolutely flopped. And it just went to show me, just like with Rick Beato, that people aren't looking necessarily for gimmicks, but are looking forward to learning stuff. And that's something I really appreciate, is so many of the videos that I've made this year are me kind of learning with you. So I'm just going to take a little break from reflecting over the year and talk about some of the stuff I'm going to be doing next year. It's really exciting because I've kind of got next year mapped out, certainly the first half of next year. I'm working on a film. Let me just load that up, actually. Recent lip template. I'm going to open up... one of my most successful Instagrams of the year was this mad session, and I don't think I'm breaking any NDAs to talk about the fact that I'm writing a film score. And we've done a deal with the film company so that we can film the entire process in a real kind of deep kind of macro manner. Open recent lip suite. Whilst I've been continuing to create YouTube videos and stuff for Piano Book, I've been writing this score and also filming every single part of the process. I don't know how that's going to be packaged up, and it might be nice to hear from you how you'd like that packaged up. I think the idea is possibly on the Spitfire main channel to have an overview of the process, how to create a film score, and then to possibly use my channel as a virtual ghosting. So basically you can come along for the ride, but in a really, really like you were kind of sitting here with me doing it, which will be hours and hours and hours of content. Is that something that you'd be interested in consuming, or would you like me to condense it down? And yes, this is that that session that if I call up the old what is it? Piano View. This is the mad session I did. Basically, it's a 13-minute suite for this new film, and created a bespoke template for that. And again, I've been explaining the whole process as I go. I imagine we're not going to be able to put that online until the film is released, but as we've heard, people are kind of running out of Netflix, so I have no doubt that they'll sell the movie within seconds. Right. Enjoyed working with some amazing musicians this year, not least Alice Allen. Really proud of the Flautando film, and it's acted as a bit of a pilot of some more educational material that we're looking into. There'll be announcements coming up about that in 2021. The other thing that is going to be really fun this year is what's going to happen to this studio. So not only am I working on this film score, which is going to be over quite a long period of time because there's a lot of CGI in the film. I'm also working on the next season of Inside Number 9, which I hope to give you a little bit of an insight in. But also, I'm about once a year, once every 18 months, I make a big sample library, and I'm making a really big sample library. So this shed is really going to become a bit of a factory for the film scoring, the TV scoring, more tutorials, but also really excitingly for this sound library that I'm making midway through making. So something I will do is just switch on my camera over here. Exciting developments for turning this into a bit of a factory is, and this is probably one of the first films of 2021, is I've actually had the entire studio properly acoustically treated. So if we have a look here, you can see it's a bit more of a kind of spaceshipy kind of thing. This has been done by Yellow Technology. So we've got all of these floating. I don't know if you've noticed, it sounds a lot drier in here. There are some really unpleasant spots in the studio, particularly what I refer to as story corner over there. For those of you who have not been in the shed, it's really, really small, and these lenses make it look really big. But I'm only kind of literally a few feet from that area that I sit in from time to time. But new additions, well, not only have I got this new acoustic treatment, but also I'm working, it's on loan at the moment, but I do think I'm going to buy it, this new Trinov system, which basically digitally acoustically corrects your room. The box is just currently kind of sitting down there, and I'll take you through it. But I was somewhat sceptical about it until they switched it on, and it was like someone had cleared a kind of a leather chamois leather out of my my ears. So that's what's going on in order to kind of make this a reliable space to compose and mix in. One of the things I'm doing for this sample library is creating this new filth box. I think actually the Mooga Fugas are going to go onto a separate rack, and I've got some really exciting new pedals to share with you alongside my wonderful Christmas present from my wife. There will be all sorts of different processing that I'll be doing here, not least some stuff with drums. I found out about this bit of kit from my favourite kind of naughty pleasure of the year, which is Snakes of Russia. He's a composer who I just really admire. I just love his sense of darkness. Now, what's going to happen over here, this is going to become my tape corner. So I've not only got my Porter Studio over here, but I've also bought second-hand this 8-track cassette here. So the idea is I'm going to have a kind of a tape processing corner over there. I'm going to get the chorus echo down there and also the echo fix to create a kind of multiple tape loop corner over there, which is going to be really exciting. The modular rig is coming along very well and will be the cornerstone of the album, which I'll talk to you in a minute. Right, what else? Oh, I've got a new fader stuff. I always bought the palette gear as a portable solution, and I've never been totally happy with the distance here, and because I'm creating a new sample library, I just want to throw that's a little bit taller so I can really analyse how things are balanced through the different dynamic layers. So that's going to be crucial. So I'll let you know what that's like and probably set it up with you. Right, so that's new stuff in the studio. Lots of exciting videos to make around it. A runaway success this year, the most downloaded instrument from Ash Vergy. There's a group of people that I'm just so thankful of and just really enjoy spending time with, and that is people who I refer to as the Piano Book volunteers. We have Stephen Tallamy, who, without his efforts, the Piano Book scheme would have died a long time ago. He's absolutely kind of fulcrum of the community. Angus Roberts Carey was an active Piano Book developer, and as a consequence, we met him, and he got a job at Spitfire Audio in the CX team. But he still, in his downtime, is an amazing contributor to the piano book community. Richard Birkin set up the new website and is also an insanely talented composer. I've linked below a Spotify link to a haunting project that he's been working on. So thank you so much for all of your hard work this year. Jo Ranger, who's also got her own female and marginalised gender sample library, Audio Artemis. She's been helping us as well. And again, the gender kind of inequality on this channel is alarming, and I'm going to really try and work harder to certainly give more exposure to female sample developers and composers. So it's probably appropriate that we should have this prize. Of two submissions from KD Richardson this year, the Evergreen Voyager was our favourite. 2021 is the year we hope a female sorority grows within the piano book community. So many thanks to you and congratulations. And Simon Fife, who basically is head of all of the demo department, if you will, and his undying efforts in really helping promote your music to the rest of the community. So thank you all, and I think from all of us, for your undying kind of passion for this extraordinary thing that is piano book. Creating a revenue source is a long-term aim that I have for piano book, as in revenue source for you. But I also think that these collaborations that we've been working on, there's something incredibly special about them and quite extraordinary. And not least Winter Voices, which was Angus Roberts-Carey's idea, and just absolutely insane project, deeply moving on a personal level for me. The involvement of Level 42's Mike Lindup was kind of a real kind of a circular thing that I thought was incredible. But the net result was something that I just think was touching from a kind of humanity point of view of how isolation can bring people together to create something just as awesome sounding as Winter Voices. So I'm really pleased to announce that I will be finishing my album next year, and I'm going to invite you to be involved in another one of our collaborations. I'm putting the kind of final touches to how it's going to work, but it's going to be so much fun. And I guess I'm taking advantage of the fact that we're likely to be kind of cooped up again for the next couple of months. I think it's going to get... I see this pandemic a little bit like the London to Brighton cycle race, which is by all accounts absolutely awful, but made more awful by the fact that literally a mile or two away from the finishing lines, you've got to go up the South Downs. And I think that's what we're doing with this pandemic. So I will take advantage of the fact that we'll be cooped up again, and I hope that that'll be a release for us. But I'm also going to use it as an opportunity to raise money for charity. So it's going to be a charity album, one that I really hope we'll all enjoy. So do keep an eye on this channel if you want to be involved in that. And I guess this brings us up towards the end of the year. If I was to cite a purchase of 2020, it would probably be the Shallow Water by I forget the name, Fairfield Circuitry. This thing, not only because it's got a blue light, it's just there's just something so oh, is it broken? That's not plugged in. There's something just so me about it. It's a bit kind of broken and wobbly, and I think that the binaural experiment that I did for the family piano, which is my gift to you for Christmas, I think that a lot of people are saying, you know, are you going to do more of that with Spitfire and stuff? And the answer is yes. And I'm talking to Spitfire about us probably buying a Dave. And that brings us up to what has been just an incredible year, and one, I think that the thing that has made us survive as a species is our ability to adapt and to lift each other up and help each other. And I think that, I hope, in 2020, whilst we may look at it, back on it and kind of sneer a bit, I think that we'll also remember some real highlights, which may, you may forget from other years. There'll be stuff that I will never forget from this year, that's for sure. And not least, that's being part of this community. Probably the first time a sample has made me cry. MICAH'S Choir by Cordaro Rodriguez is, I don't know, it sums up the pain of this year. Thank you so much and well done. There's a video I made for Spitfire Audio which really surrounds this film score I've been working on, and how I dared to be much more minimal in my approach, in a way that was almost, dare I say it, arrogant. And I think I learned a real lesson from that, not just in compositionally, but also just from a kind of a life point of view. And that's something that I'm going to concentrate on next year. And that is to simplify. Something that I've managed to do this year is not travel as much. And I've set up an office in Leith and have a small team there working with me when we're allowed. And I think that that has created a much more kind of rigid day-to-day existence for me, which has really helped me up there. And that's something I would really urge any of you who are struggling. Is there's, I think, a few real key things that have helped me this year. One has been exercise and getting out. The second has been to reduce the amount of chaos in your life by establishing a routine. I think that you make your life less chaotic, and it means you don't have to concentrate on the mundanity of life, the things that are repetitive, the things that are routine, slip into the kind of mundane. You do it on autopilot, and that's good because it enables you to concentrate on the important things. My life since moving to Edinburgh has been incredibly chaotic, not in a horrible way, just like every day has been totally different. And whilst that may sound attractive, and whilst kind of working from home enables you to be free and easy with the hours that you work, what happens is you're constantly in kind of not a fight or flight mode, but you're just having to kind of go, okay, what am I doing next? When am I going to be able to do that? How am I going to schedule that in? It means that you forget things, and that creates a stress and all of that kind of stuff. So for me, one of the real helps has been understanding the importance of reducing chaos in one's life, the absolute importance of getting out and doing exercises. It's fundamental, and I hope if something good comes out of 2021 is people's realisation of that, and long may it continue. Every year I award an extra special prize to someone who has really gone beyond the call of duty. And this year I'm going to be giving a Spitfire Everything Drive to Dave Hilowitz for just not only all of the fantastic work he does with Piano Book, helping us to try and make it a free platform and not relying so much on contact, but also for his YouTube channel and the amazing help that he gives out to free to the community. So congratulations, Dave Hilowitz, and I hope you have a wonderful 2021 with a fat drive full of luscious samples. What I've recognised is there are certain things that have been conditioned into me as perceivably as weaknesses, and I've actually learned that what happens when people project weaknesses onto you, behaviours that they perceive to be weak or want you to feel a weak, what happens is that you shun them in fear of being weak. And what I've realised is a lot of my perceived weaknesses are actually my strengths, and that is something that I'm going to really adventure into with my composition. I mentioned being simplistic. What I love is making sounds and really applying music sensitively to help tell a story for directors. And I think that I I've just been overcomplicating what I do and how I do it for fear of exposing those weaknesses, which are a simplistic approach to music and a real passion for sound. So that for me is a real paradigm realization moving into the new year. So I want to spend I want to spend more time doing less. And that I'm going to roll out across my life. It's not just my application to composition, but also in the amount of undertakings I take on, the amount of promises I make. Instead of saying yes to everything, why not concentrate on fewer things, but concentrate more on them to make the outcomes better, more desirable, and the people I work with happier. So that's my big kind of viewpoint for next year. I would really love to know what things you're going to address and change possibly next year. As I mentioned before, I think it's a really, really exciting time ahead of us. I think that things that are not structurally at fault will bounce back. And I know there's a lot of adversity in our way between now and that point, but I feel utterly confident. The one thing our industry forgets is that music is not a commodity. It's not a luxury item. It is a basic, fundamental need of life. And that's what we provide to the world. And that's something we should be incredibly proud, joyous, and excited about. If you haven't seen the interview with Henrietta Smith-Roller, she has a great outlook about what we can achieve as composers and how what is often standing in our way is ourselves. So get yourselves out of the way and have an amazing 2021. And please contribute in the comments down below as to how you'll be approaching things differently, your New Year's resolutions, and what you got for Christmas.
So my mantra for 2021 will be spend more time doing less. And I guess the most important thank you I've saved till last, and that is to you, everyone who's subscribed to this channel and my other social feeds, Instagram and Twitter, just for your never-ending words of encouragement. Without them, I doubt that I'd still be going. It's been an absolute joy to share the misery of 2020 with you and this community, and the activities that we have undertaken together have genuinely made it bearable. So can I send you all of my love, and just, I think the next couple of months are going to be miserable, but we have so much to look forward to, and hopefully see you here, if not in person, virtually on the summer solstice, which is Monday, 21st of June. But as I said in the shed, there's going to be plenty more going on between now and then. So subscribe if you haven't done, ding that bell if you'd like to be notified the next time I put a video up, and one of those for us composers and how we make the world just that more livable. Be safe, lots of love, happy, healthy and prosperous new year. I have no doubt that it will be.